This is the Doctors Who podcast, and we are Chris.
And I'm Brian, and this is episode 5 of season 2 of the Doctors Who podcast.
It is. So last time we decided to video record. Put it up on YouTube. Actually went really well.
Pretty smooth setup.
Yeah.
I mean, we've invested a lot trying to upgrade some of our equipment. We bought some new lighting.
Yeah.
We have a new, I don't know. It feels like a lot of it's new, but maybe not. Just put to different use. We'll put it that way.
Yeah. So, just a standard webcam. We've got the mixer we've been using. We've got the mics we've been using. Add the light kit. Throw some fancy bookcases behind us, and we look almost official.
We look good, at least from here.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're just gonna continue the streak. We're recording this one as well, and like the last one, you will be able to download it either via your regular podcast app and just listen to it, or you'll be able to go to YouTube and pull it down that way.
Yeah.
What do we have today?
Well, let's see. We're covering the next episode of season 2 of Disco.
Yes.
The Obol for Charon.
Yeah.
Charon.
Charon.
My
Charon.
Sharona.
I don't know. We'll dig into it a little bit later, but we're covering that. We do have, as always, some beer to drink, and just general shenanigans and tomfoolery.
Awesome. Let's start with the beer.
All right. Okay, so today's beer of the week, we have from North Coast Brewing Company, the Old Rasputin Russian Imperial Stout.
Oh, kind of an old-timey looking bottle.
An old-timey looking Rasputin. He's kind of like waving at you, like, yo.
Yeah, that's not really the farmer wave. That's just kind of the...
maybe the sun's in his eyes? I don't know.
That could be. Or maybe he's coming in from the fields, or I don't know.
Here, I tell you what, for the purpose of our viewers on YouTube, let's pan to a close-up of the label.
Interesting looking bottle.
It is. Now, the question is the beer that's in the bottle as interesting as the bottle itself? But before we do that, why don't we talk a little bit about the brewery? Why don't we talk a little bit about what exactly is a Russian Imperial Stout?
Sounds good.
Yeah. You wanna drop some knowledge on us, Brian?
Sure. I guess I'll talk about what is a Russian Imperial Stout. So Russian Imperial Stouts really started coming about in the early 18th century when Peter the Great in Russia opened up Russia to the West. Now, Russian Imperial Stouts were first brewed in England, and kind of a tribute to that opening of Russia. And yeah, they're usually known for having kind of high alcohol content, very full body. Oftentimes they have like chocolate or rich notes to them. So that's kind of what I'm expecting with this one as we dive into it.
Okay. Sounds good. Should we crack into it?
Very good.
Cool. While I'm pouring, do you have any like location information on the brewery?
So this North Coast Brewing hails out of Fort Bragg, California, which is I guess right off the coast in California. It's been around since 1988, so it's celebrating 31 years this year.
Aww.
Which I know that's how nice.
It's almost as old as you are.
Oh man. But it is well known. This is a well-known brew. A lot of people I've had this a couple different times, but way back when, so this will be fun to go back and visit it again.
All right. Let's why don't we give her a pour?
Now I'm guessing it has 9% ABV. So as you pour it, I'm hoping to see it pour pretty slowly. It's not as thick as a milkshake, at least as far as what it looks like, but it pours slower than, I don't know, ales or other things that we've had in recent weeks.
Yeah, it doesn't quite have that thick consistency that something like a Guinness would have, right? Whenever I would first introduce somebody to something like a Guinness, I would always caution them, this is not going to be this light, fizzy drink that hits your tongue like a Budweiser. It's going to be more like the consistency of milk, or some people would say motor oil.
Yeah.
So really, when you're first tasting something like this, it's about what you're expecting to get versus what you actually get. Because if you're expecting something fizzy and you get motor oil, consistency, not the flavor, it's going to ruin your experience right there. Because your expectation is just going to be so far off. So, just a little tidbit.
And I should mention, too, I don't know if I did before, but this was brewed originally as an alternative to the porter, which was kind of the popular style in the day. So,
and I do enjoy a porter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we've examined its beauty long enough. I think we should sample some.
Absolutely. That's definitely 9%.
Boozy might be a good word for that.
So there are a lot of different stouts. I think we've talked about this. You've got your chocolate stout, you've got your coffee stout, your oatmeal stout, your Imperial stout. So I think of all the stouts, the Imperial is probably my favorite. So my initial taste of this is, it's kind of got that tartness and that bitterness. You can also you can taste the malt. There are hints of coffee, maybe a little bit of chocolate in there too, even. But it's really good.
It's a warming beer. I get that full feeling.
Yeah,
perfect
for the blustery Iowa weather that happens to be outside right now. So why don't we consult Untapped? And let's see. So yeah, as you said, 9% ABV. This has 75 IBUs. I think last episode... It is pretty hoppy. Last episode, was it a lager or an ale we had last week? I think it was an ale. That was at 100, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a lot higher.
So the idea that a higher IBU means hoppier like an IPA might actually be a misconception.
Mm-hmm.
So on Untapped, this has 221,000 ratings.
Ooh. Now, I haven't looked at it, but my opinion before I look at or hear the ranking, I mean, I'd probably have to give this right around a 4.
That's a great guess. The average ranking of those 221,000 people is 4.02.
Ooh.
So I doubt our check-ins are really going to sway the average that much, but we're going to do it anyway. Okay. I'm actually going north of 4. I'm going to do a 4.25.
It's really a solid beer, though. I mean, and I've expressed this to Chris before, and I think we've said it before on the podcast. But really, anything over about 3.5 or over, I would be happy to try again. And anything under 3, I'd also be happy to try again. Let's be honest.
Well, yeah. I mean, we don't discriminate. Discriminate. Yeah. That's the D word I meant. It's late. Okay. So the flavor fit.
We'll get there. There you go. Hold on.
We will.
Yes.
The flavor profile on Untapped. Let's see what matches up. First one is dark.
Yeah, I would say dark is probably a good one.
Second is smooth.
I take no issue with smooth. Dark
No.
is kind of an interesting flavor profile, but
Well,
anyway.
yeah, it kind of is. I'm gonna go with smooth. The next one is coffee. I think we said we could definitely
I
taste
get
some
coffee out of it. Yep.
The next one is creamy.
A little bit less. I mean, I get creamy, but I think there are some other notes that are probably more prevalent.
I'm gonna skip checking creamy, and the last one is not boozy, but it is strong. And I'm gonna give it a strong.
Yeah, I would give it a strong.
All right, checking in now. All right, I did unlock a badge. Now this is interesting. Because the badge I unlocked with this check-in is hopped up level 5. The description is load up on those hops, watch the IBU grow and drink it down. Now you're all hopped up. The more bitter, the better. That's 25 different beers with an IBU of 65 or higher. Try 5 more for level 6.
Congratulations.
So clearly, Untapped is playing into this bias as well.
Mm-hmm. It is interesting. I mean, again, you brought up a good point where you've heard of muscle confusion, right? Where you do different workouts like to make sure that you get a different type of burn. Well, we're doing hop confusion because we're trying different levels of hops with different styles of beer.
Yeah.
It's tasty. I'll give it that.
Yeah, I like it.
There's a reason why it's been ranked 220,000 times.
I'm going to just empty out the rest of my bottle here. I was trying to prevent some spillage like someone else had last time.
Oh, of course, you had to bring that up.
I do.
Yes.
But so far, you haven't done it again.
I learned my lesson by placing the glass on the other side of the table. Or the microphone, I should say.
As always, you can find us on Untapped. My username is LCrisp. That's ELKRISP.
And mine is Brian _JAY. BRIAN _JAY.
And if you do happen to grab one of these and you try it, we would love to hear your thoughts. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Are you now a changed person because you've put this in your stomach?
Have you learned how to levitate because of our suggestions?
That's a good one. So far, I don't think that's happened to anybody. But if it has,
please let us know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you have a suggestion for a beer we should try, we're also open to suggestions.
Also very true. So, to do that, you can find us on Instagram or Twitter at TDW Podcast. It's harder to say than you think it should be. We are also on Facebook. Search for the Doctors Who Podcast. Or you can email us. Our Gmail is tdwpodcast@gmail.com. So now is the time we've all been waiting for, the Away Team Report, where we cover Season 2 of Discovery. And this week we are looking at An Obol to Charon. So we did some digging in the break, right? How do you pronounce this word? And it appears there's a couple different ways. I think after we talk about them and after we discuss the episode, we'll know which way this is going to go.
Mm-hmm. Might take a little bit of time.
It might.
Regardless,
we've got all night.
We do. Even though we might disagree on how we want to say it, we both agree that it was a good, solid episode.
Yeah. So, again, as we've done in the past, we're going to talk about some non-spoilery things, some generalizations, and maybe some callbacks to other Trek things before we dive into spoiler territory. Mm-hmm. And, as always, we're going to give you some warning, so if you haven't seen it, you've got plenty of time.
Fear not, we will let you know.
Yeah, and I don't know if you caught this, but when we did the spoiler thing last time, for the video I actually put up a little graphic that said spoilers when we were ready to move to that section. So
I noticed.
I was pretty impressed with myself. Even though it's all preloaded into iMovie, I was still impressed with myself. Anyway.
So I thought the episode was really good for a number of different reasons. Again, we're seeing a lot of good character development. We're in season 2,
Yeah.
and we're still developing good characters. And I thought one character in particular just had a great emotional breakout. In my opinion, as far as dynamics, his best performance of the season.
You're either talking about Saru or that weird green blue skinned alien who hacked up all over the Enterprise science officer in the first episode.
Yeah, I won't spoil that one, but I thought it was a very emotionally driven.
It was
Good, almost. I mean, there were a lot of like there were some questions, like it talked about morality, it talked about
yeah.
like what you should do, like violating the Prime Directive, like what you should do with, I don't just different circumstances. Again, talking extremely high level, but
Yeah.
it was everything I would hope a Star Trek show would be.
And there were some, besides the emotional resonance, there was the science fiction or the Trek elements that we've seen before, right? So the unexplained alien life form in engineering. There's the huge threat outside the ship. Is it sentient? Is it not sentient? Kind of a callback to like V'ger, or kind of reminded me of Encounter at Farpoint, the first Next Generation episode.
Oh, yeah.
Where
yeah.
the Enterprise was trapped by what we later found out to be Q. But at this point, we don't really know. So they really. I mean, there's been a lot of Trek, and it's hard to always have new themes, but I almost feel like these are some familiar things for people to fall back on.
Yeah, I think it was a relatively safe episode as far as the direction goes. It was not exactly what I thought I was going to be watching when I started, which is good and bad. I mean, I think I had expectation that it would follow certain storylines a little bit closer and then others less, but all in all, I was left pleased at the end of the episode. I thought they did a really good job of good storytelling, and maybe retreading a little bit on previous Star Trek episodes, but maybe doing it in a slightly different way.
And I think this kind of goes without saying at this point, but the way it was shot and the effects and everything, it looks so professional. It's almost like you're watching a movie.
It's beautiful, and this one clocks in at around 58 minutes, I believe, without commercials. If you're cheap like me and don't spring for the commercial-free version,
and me,
but really just I didn't realize I was watching a 58-minute episode until I looked down and I saw that it was like 40 minutes in. So, and even then, that was just because trying to keep track of time and everything else. When you're in the TARDIS, time shouldn't matter, but somehow it still does.
A lot of people think it's a linear progression of cause and effect.
Oh, and it's not?
No.
Oh, man.
No, it's not. So we have some further development on Spock, again played by Ethan Peck, grandson of Gregory Peck, who's a great actor. We haven't actually, this isn't really a spoiler to say we haven't seen Ethan Peck on screen yet, but I fully expect he's going to knock this out of the park when we do see him.
Absolutely.
We also saw our first appearance of Number One, Pike's first officer on the Enterprise.
Yeah. Played by, and I'm going to mispronounce her name, Rebecca Romaine, right?
You did not.
Fantastic.
Just like the lettuce.
Which is kind of fun because I've been watching, as I told you before, I'm rewatching the TNT show The Librarians, and she's on that show, so it's kind of fun because I'm watching two shows with her in it, and just a really good actress, and does a great job interacting with her co-stars.
Yeah, and she is strikingly similar to Majel Barrett Roddenberry. So
Coincidence? Yeah,
probably not. I mean,
I don't know.
but she's
probably not. I don't
she's
know.
not naturally dark haired though, is she?
No, she's.
I
I
was
think
thinking she's like a blonde. Yeah,
Well, it's
I
hard
don't.
to tell
I
underneath
don't get
all
out
the Mystique
much.
body paint.
That's true. Yeah. Maybe she
Yeah.
stole some of John Stamos' hair before they divorced.
Oh, I forgot about that. Wait, were they really?
They were married.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't believe Uncle Jesse actually got married.
Right? To
Well-
somebody besides Becky.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a given. That's
Yeah.
a given. But do we have anything else before we go into the spoilery stuff? Because I'm really anxious to get there.
I'm just gonna tease a few things and we can get into the details. But when number one did come aboard, they kind of explained some of the technology gap between Discovery and the original series.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we saw some more of that later in the episode. Why do they have this now, but they didn't have it
Oh yeah.
15,
Absolutely.
20 years later, whatever the time frame is here. So it's always kind of nice that you get this reassurance that yes, the people writing this do have an understanding of what canon is and that they have to make this thing fit. Since they wedge this into an already established timeline, they've got to make sure that they don't disrupt anything. So it's good to see that they're taking those things into consideration.
And I don't know, we've discussed this before too, but it feels like they do listen to, I don't know if they follow internet forums or if they like read Reddit, but like it seems like with the hair comment last week, where they talked about why some Klingons don't have hair.
Right.
You know, they really did a good job of kind of tying that in. That was a big fan complaint, and then they're going through and kind of addressing these episode by episode. So I think they're doing a good service to the faithful Trek followers, plus those who have never seen it before, roping them in as well.
Right. And it's, I mean, it's a flexible writer's room from the sound of it. They're getting feedback and they're responding to the feedback and they're saying, okay, well, we tried this, it didn't work, so we're going to have to shift directions. It's not that they're folding, it's not that they're admitting defeat, it's ultimately any showrunner, any writer's room, any production wants to please the audience they're serving.
Mm-hmm.
And I think their willingness to kind of analyze and say, okay, did we do this correctly? And if not, what do we need to do? I think it's great.
Absolutely.
Now, granted, I'm a lot easier to please than some people, but still.
Yeah.
Okay, are we done now?
I think so. Can we flash up the banner?
Okay, so we'll do the countdown like we did last time. I won't have problems with my fingers this time. And then there will be a flashy banner if you're watching on YouTube. And if you haven't seen it, you should just stop. Okay, so spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You have been warned. These are spoilers.
These are spoilers. Okay, so you said this last time. I was thinking the whole May ghost thing with Tilly was kind of an apparition.
Uh-huh.
Like, not an apparition, like a one-off.
Mm-hmm.
Where did apparition come from?
Well,
I don't know.
they did talk about ghosts. They thought.
I mean, that's true. Yeah, thanks. I feel a little better. But this appears to be part of a larger storyline, and you suggested that might be the case last week.
Yeah.
So, good on you. I was wrong. This was actually a lot more interesting than what we saw last week.
Yeah, and I'm really glad they built that in because it felt like it was more organic. You know, anytime you have what seems to be a tantalizing story arc that's undeveloped, it's like, well, I'd like to see that fleshed out a little bit, and
Right.
I'm glad they are apparently going that direction.
Well, and they're not rushing the development, right? So they're
Absolutely.
doing this at the pace I think it needs to be told at. So you don't just like steamroll from one arc to the next.
Well, and I go back to a conversation we had months ago where CBS came out and said they wanted to have all Star Trek all the time. I feel like CBS is really committing to this show, And I think that's great not only for the writers, because then they have more time to develop these arcs and tie these stories up, but it
Yeah.
also is better for us as the viewers because then it keeps us going from episode to episode
Yeah.
because we get better product.
We do. And kind of to that point, and this is a little bit of a derail. We've been hearing a little bit more about some of the things that they're doing on CBS All Access. So we've talked about the Picard series. We've mentioned the Section 31 series. There's a cartoon coming out that is created by one of the creators of Rick and Morty.
Yeah, it was, I keep thinking Dan Harmon. It might have been the other one. Anyway.
I don't know. But it sounds like there are other things in the works as well. There might even actually be a kids cartoon that they're developing.
Oh.
So
Cool.
it's a pretty exciting time to be a Star Trek fan or a science fiction fan. And the fact that they're kind of tackling all these different mediums to me is a good thing. Because you need to catch people where they are. They aren't always going to come to you.
Right.
So if you're going to grow this thing and you're going to compete with the likes of a Star Wars or a Harry Potter or like Avengers or like Marvel Cinematic Universe or things like that, you need to find a way to reach new people. You cannot just rely on your existing fan base who tend to be a little on the curmudgeon-y side, if you don't mind me saying so.
Oh, yeah. It kind of fits one demographic, but, we know people who are, how do I put this, who are not comic book people. They aren't people who would normally go into that sort of thing, but I watched, admittedly, really late, the Ant-Man and the Wasp this past week.
I did too.
And
yeah,
really good movie.
Yeah.
Hilarious. I thought it was really funny.
It was really good. I remember hearing about it shortly after Avengers Infinity War came out. Just the finger snap was so fresh in my mind. I'm like, oh no, I do not want a lighthearted comedy action romp right now. But it was really well done. And I made the comment after I saw it, I'm like, I don't remember liking the first one this much.
No, I think the second one stands up better.
Yeah.
And that's the funny thing is, and where I was going with that was we know people who are, I say we because we have mutual friends who are not comic book people, but absolutely have been enraptured by the MCU, just drawn into it. They weren't normally Marvel people. And I think that's what this Star Trek Discovery series will be doing. Yes.
They're trying to pull in the people that are not the diehard Trek science fiction fans, and it's a good thing. Other pieces, right? So the search for Spock continues to borrow a title from a very old movie at this point.
Almost as old as North Coast Brewing.
Almost as old as Rasputin himself. No,
not quite that old.
But this was kind of your pain point, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you were looking forward to.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. I originally started in on this episode, and my first thought was, okay, we've been talking about Spock for a couple episodes now. We're going to meet him. We're going to have some sort of like rough interaction because of the rough relationship that Michael and Spock had growing up. And I kept waiting for it. And then I got to like 45, 50 minutes in, and I'm like, it's not going to happen. And then I was kind of hopeful that maybe at like the last scene they would show something, but no. So, and we'll talk about the last scene, or actually, at the end of the episode they talk about future episodes, and I have some thoughts about that, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
What did you think about the episode?
Overall, really solid. Again, you know what? I completely forgot Doug Jones. Thank you.
Yes,
Saru. I
Yeah.
just thanked you for not saying anything. But, well, because I texted you earlier. I'm like, oh my gosh, Doug Jones did a great job. Under all that prosthetic and makeup, he was able to convey a very wide range of emotion and really built and developed his character, and you learned some interesting things about his character. You learned some interesting things about his species. Like, they're still under General Order 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I knew he was the only one of his species in Starfleet, but
I mean, that's kind of a trope for Star Trek, though, because Spock was the first Vulcan, Worf was the first Klingon. In DS9, I think Rom's kid, whatever his name is, was the first Ferengi in Starfleet. So,
not Dax. What's his name? Come
unimportant.
back to me. Yep.
Unimportant. Anyway, so to have I'm the first of my species in Starfleet, not unexpected, but this is the first time where the first species in Starfleet has been kind of separated from his people, and his people are still under protection of the Prime Directive. So that's kind of interesting.
And the fact that he learns this great secret about his species that he cannot talk to them about because he is under this Prime Directive.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. So, when and it's really kind of interesting when he first comes to the realization that I'm not just sick, I'm actually dying. You can kind of see that mood shift from I just don't feel good to holy crap, I need to learn how to cope and deal with this because
absolutely
my life is ending. And I think from what I understand of the Kelpian race, that's something that most of them kind of grow up close to. It's like they kind of expect to be snuffed out at any point.
Mm-hmm.
But he does such a great job, again, under all of that.
Well, yeah, all of the makeup, all of the prosthetics, and he did a really good job of conveying someone who started the episode like, just as you would expect someone with a cold, but then you can literally see him just age rapidly throughout the first 25-30 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was interesting watching his performance because I kept expecting, all right, well, now they know this, and now it's going to get better.
Right. But the other kind of interesting part there was, like, even though he knew he was dying, he's like, oh crap, the ship is in danger, so I can't just sit in my room and die peacefully. I need to be out there, and I need to do something, and I need to help. So he just kept pushing himself and going. Even when he was in sick bay, he was like, I gotta go. We can't just stay here. What's done is done. We gotta save everybody else. So, again, great performance by Doug Jones. Mm-hmm. Also, great writing from the writers' room, I think.
Oh yeah. I feel like they did a good service to his character because I honestly believe. I mean, sometimes you watch a show and it's like, well, I don't know if the character would have done that, but I feel like what I know about his character in the first 2 seasons, this is exactly who Saru is.
Yeah. And you get near the end of the episode, and they actually deal with the main threat, which we'll discuss here in a second. But after that happened, like, part of me was like, oh, well, now that this main threat is gone, which was causing Saru's affliction, you're like, oh, he's going to get better. But then they went like another 5 or 10 minutes with the death angle, and you're like, oh my god, are they really going to kill him off?
I thought they were, to be honest, because I kept waiting for it, and then it kept dragging on and on. I'm like, I don't think they're going to cut this. I think they're actually going to show this happen.
I think they're really going to, like, off him. This is how Michael Burnham's going to get to be first officer.
Right? It was kind of traumatic, and I'm glad that I got to watch it by myself, so
you could cry in peace.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, me too. But yes, Doug Jones's character Saru did not die,
and Michael Burnham's character, man, she was fantastic too.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yes.
If you asked me to cry just at a moment's notice, I don't think I could do it. I mean,
man, but yeah, so she
had a really, really good moment with a lot of good close-ups that just...
I was convinced she was actually emotionally dying inside. It was that good.
I should say, I got a new TV
Oh yeah,
since
that's
our
right.
last podcast.
That's right. Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
quality of like it has better pixels, it has better frame, everything is better about this TV. And I was amazed, like I actually paused it at one point, and it was like you could really physically feel the pain.
And it was, I mean, even if you pause like one of those TVs, it's crystal clear.
It is.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. So the interesting thing that happened to Saru at the end was he wanted Burnham to cut off his head ganglia thing to basically speed his passing so he could die peacefully before like the madness took him, because he was either gonna die that way or he was gonna eventually just go insane from the pain, and he didn't want to go that way. So she's like just about to do it, and his ganglia actually just like fall off.
Yeah.
And I don't really know what that means.
I don't either, other than, well, that was kind of their, like when that started happening, that's when the species knew that it was time for being culled. Like the predators would then come and get you when that happened.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like what's the equivalent? Like
it's almost like an evolutionary step, right?
It is.
That's what it felt like to me, and I'm sure they're going to explain it, or they're going to expand upon it more this season. But
I'm excited about the fact that he in his post interview after his death scene, he was in med bay, and they were talking to him, and he said like he just felt like powerful. Yeah. Which, what does that mean? He
super soldier serum Captain America powerful?
Right.
Or just like, I'm empowered with the fact that I know I don't have to be afraid anymore, that this fear of always being this hunted species that's always been just ingrained in my DNA, in my genes, is not there anymore.
And it might have been more geared towards that meta, like that psychological strength.
Sure.
But like the way he flexed, like it looked like he was going to be.
Well, I mean, he does work out. It's clear.
True.
I don't know if he works out.
His prosthetics certainly do. They
Sure.
looked good.
Yeah. Great job, not only to Doug Jones but also to the makeup team.
Absolutely.
Because we've never seen a shirtless Kelpian before.
I don't think so. Oh, like any sort of half-body prosthetic is as real looking as that one. I just don't remember seeing it on a TV show.
Yeah.
And I kept expecting, like, when he actually leaned back in his bed and you could see, like, the crease of his elbow flexing, it actually was, like, I was expecting some bagginess in the elbow, and it's like, well, that didn't look like it was happening. It looked very, very real.
And I know that the makeup and the prosthetics are at least 95% of that, but they might have done some CGI touch-up after the fact. I don't know, but
I'm sure
it still looked amazing.
Did.
So hats off to them. The big threat, though, was they were warping to go find Spock because Number One had managed to glean some classified information about where he was off to, and they get yanked out of warp. In Star Wars, they would call it an interdictor had pulled them out, but basically this huge thing.
It kind of looked like the almost, what's the right word? Not the World Eater, the Doomsday Machine. Like to a certain degree, it kind of had like the look of the maw of the Doomsday Machine, and like with the cavernous, just explosions, the fire, everything else inside of it,
and basically it was sending out this field that was holding them in place, so they couldn't go anywhere. And then like all their ship's functions started to malfunction. So like the universal translators and the computers all started like going haywire. So everybody thought they were speaking in different languages, and nobody could understand anybody except Saru, who speaks apparently 94 languages. So that was very beneficial.
Well, I thought that. I will be honest. I saw the green guy with the big eyes, kind of sneezed
Yeah.
at the beginning, and then he made some comment about, well, oh yeah, my universal translator's not working, but it sucks having sinus issues when you have 6 nasal cavities. I thought it was kind of like, all right,
Yeah.
ha ha ha. But it really went on, and then it showed, well, again, not only how important Saru was to the show and the ship, but I don't know, like they actually did something with it. What I thought was just going to be kind of a one-off joke, they actually expanded on it.
Yeah.
I thought that was well done.
Yeah. So over the course of the episode, they try to figure out if this thing is sentient, if it knows it's pulling them in, if it's aggressive, and Pike is darn near certain that it means them ill will, and he's ready to just unleash photon torpedoes at this thing. But Burnham and Saru figure out that it's actually trying to communicate. That Saru, who is receptive to like the feelings of other beings and things like that, has been getting like these.
What an empathetic character.
Right, yeah.
I said empathetic, just to clarify. I did not say he's a pathetic character. For those of you listening in on the MP3, Chris is now facepalming.
Oh, my head hurts.
Oh, we haven't. Sorry,
What?
we haven't talked about the big problem in engineering.
No, we haven't. Did we want to do that now, or did we want to wait till we get to the resolution?
We might wait a little bit on that, but until then, I'm just going to refer to it as Star Trek XI: The Search for Tilly.
Cool, I like it. Okay, cool. Yeah, so Saru had been like getting like these flashes of light in the infrared spectrum, or ultraviolet spectrum.
Ultraviolet, yeah.
Yeah, which not visible to humans, visible to him, and he comes to find out that it's this thing communicating, and it's dying, and it wants to pass on all of its 100,000 years of existence before it expires. And it seemed like kind of a leap to me. Mm-hmm. That's really my only complaint with the episode, is that they arrived at that conclusion without much in the way to support it, if that makes sense.
It does, but maybe let's try to tie it back to the episode title here. So again, the episode is Obol for Charon.
Charon. Yes, because I did my internet research.
Yes.
So let's talk about those, right? So Charon is the Greek. Is he a deity? The one that ushers the dead from the land of the living to the land of the dead, right, on the river. So he's got like the boat. Mm-hmm. And the Obol.
Yes, that was a Greek coin, kind of a derivative off the drachma, but it was the coin used in, I'll say, funerary symbolism, where on a dead person you would put the coin on the lips of the recently deceased, and that would pay their fare to Charon,
to ferry them to the land of the dead.
Yes.
So this episode did kind of deal with death.
And then,
right? Yeah.
And then kind of like speaking your piece before you die. So it was maybe I don't know. I read it kind of as like a Greek version of giving your 2 cents before you die.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's how it was intended, but
yeah, well. So interesting side tidbit while we were looking things up. Charon, Charon, if you're talking about the Greek deity, it's pronounced Charon. Pluto also has a moon of the same spelling/name, but the moon is pronounced Charon.
Interesting.
So it appears that when we were struggling in the beginning of the episode, it was not unfounded.
Very cool.
Yeah. We're not as dumb as we appear.
And you guys have now learned something in this podcast.
Yeah, we talked about history of the Russian Imperial Stout and how that came into effect, and we talked about some Greek mythology, and we even gave you some astronomy.
Yeah. I feel like your mom would be proud.
If it wasn't so much work and it wouldn't cause a problem, I would totally mic drop right now.
Mics are expensive.
I know.
Oh, man.
I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. But I really want to.
Well, I'm almost out of beer. Do we have anything else? Oh.
To drink?
Yeah, to drink. I will say...
We do have to talk about the engineering thing.
Yes.
So, but do we need to get something more to drink first?
Yeah, well, why not?
Okay, so we'll take a brief hiatus and we'll be right back. Brian, is your beer gone?
Just about.
Well, good, because I have something for you.
Ooh, what is it?
This would not be Star Trek if we did not have Romulan Ale.
Oh, wow.
So, why don't we talk about engineering?
Boy, there's a lot there.
Yeah, but some pretty significant things.
Yeah, and I think probably the driver for a lot of future episodes will come from what we saw here.
Right. So this was, again, as we alluded to in the non-spoiler section, what was going on with Tilly last week, and then the continuation of that. What I was afraid was just a one-off side storyline is actually part of something much bigger.
Yeah. So I believe it was May, right?
Yeah.
May was a childhood friend of Tilly's, and it turns out, well, there might be more to her apparitions. It might be this sentient being that is, I'll say, hell-bent on stopping Discovery from its mission.
What's its mission? Using mycelial drive?
Yeah, well, I'd say like that's a big function of what it does.
Sure.
Because, I mean, you heard the comments that's kind of like the solar panels of this century is.
Right.
Like the spore drive is the way of the future.
Yeah, so we had a pretty good exchange between Stamets and
Oh, yeah, I'm blanking.
Tig something. Anyway, the lady they picked up off the asteroid.
Yep.
You can all remind us of her name because we're terrible people. And the thing is, I really like her.
I do too, and she's from the Hiawatha, so it's
Yes.
like I remember exactly
Yes.
her backstory. It's just her name is
But
me.
basically, she's old school. She's like, you know what, dilithium and antimatter is the way to go. I'm gonna fix things with duct tape.
Yep,
That's kind of her thing. And Stamets is like, no, do you know how many worlds have been ravaged by dilithium mining and how many wars have been fought because of this valuable resource? The mycelial network is a way to get past all this. And then we come to find out from May, who is actually an alien from the mycelial network, I think.
Or some
A spore from,
adjacent
I don't know.
colony thereabouts.
But she hangs out there. That the Discovery jumping in and out of that network is actually like tearing it up. So it's doing damage every time they jump. And Stamets is like, whoa. Well, crap.
And we knew this was kind of coming, right?
Well, yeah, because in the original series, they don't have a mycelial drive.
Right.
They have warp speed with antimatter and dilithium crystals and maybe duct tape. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, this is how they're going to explain why they have this thing now, but they don't have it in 20 years.
Absolutely. I think that's a good move by the writing team to kind of merge these two worlds together between Discovery and TOS.
And they did it a little bit more with when Number One came aboard, because they basically said the Enterprise was the only ship in the fleet that had been affected, and Pike made the comment about like, oh, he warned me about the the holographic emitters, tear them out. We're all gonna communicate by view screens from now on. So again, it's like just these little things like this. It's like, oh well, okay. They're starting to move toward that direction to get to the point where things are simpler than they are.
Yeah, I think that's great storytelling.
It is, and if you think about it, it's like, you've seen stories where like, humanity becomes super advanced, and then like some cataclysmic event happens and they get thrown back a couple hundred years. Mm-hmm. So I almost wonder if they're going to do something like that at the tail end of this series, so you understand why they went from super shiny fancy stuff to pretty what is now mundane, because it's been 55 years.
Right.
So, well, not quite 55, but you know what I mean. So, but this is not the end of that arc.
No, it really seems like, well, at first we thought Tilly was more or less kind of okay with this symbiosis. She seemed like she was more or less like pairing pretty well with it. And then next thing you knew, the spores kind of like exploded. And
did we talk about the symbiosis?
I don't think we did.
No. So basically, it like attaches to her arm, and she's like,
oh right, yep.
Yeah. So she's like, they put her in the chamber where Stamets goes to activate the mycelial network just to keep her quarantined, and like starts like injecting like feel-good drugs into her system to make her compliant and things like that. And they communicate with it, and it says that, hey, you're ripping up our shit, basically. Wait, can I say that?
Did you say ripping up our ship?
Shit.
Oh, I suppose it's our podcast. We do what we want.
Yeah, that's true. I won't indicate that it's clean when we post it. But I mean, ripping up our ship works too, but not really.
Yeah.
So it almost like puts her in a cocoon, right?
Yeah, I was trying to think of a good analogy or a good like reference to it, but it was not a pretty sight.
No.
And then it almost seemed like she was in order to get her out of it, they more or less birthed her from it, and they thought that she was clear.
They cut that thing open like a tauntaun.
Yeah. Or a dewback. But tauntaun is better. But yeah, so she came out, and they thought she was better, but they had kind of this brief relapse or the spell where the spores were in the air.
And then it sucked her back in, and that was kind of the cliffhanger for the next episode, is she's like stuck inside this thing.
Now, I will say this, as someone who's watched a lot of science fiction lately, this kind of has like that Stranger Things type of view to it. Have you seen Stranger Things?
Haven't. No.
So it kind of has that.
I don't know that I really have an urge to.
That's fair. But it kind of has that. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say probably because I don't know anything about it, and I'm one of those fun haters that tends to just not want to do what everybody else is doing. So if somebody if half the world is raving about Thing X, I'm probably not going to go check out Thing X.
Makes sense.
That's just how I'm wired.
But it kind of has that vibe to it where, all right, she's taken to some sort of alternate dimension, alternate timeline, alternate something.
It almost feels like she's in the network, like where... Oh,
Neo.
No, like Stamets's...
Oh, you're talking... Okay,
dude,
still the same.
Paul, where Paul was kind of like residing.
Oh, yep.
Like, yeah, so, I don't know.
Now, maybe it's because of the Romulan Ale, but...
Probably not.
I keep wanting to call Stamets Alan Tudyk.
They look strikingly similar now that you say that, yeah.
I don't know why that just suddenly, like, hit me, but...
Yeah.
Anyway, are you going to pull up a picture of it?
No, but I really need to figure out what that lady's name is. Because they had some great...
There's a lot of banter back.
Yeah.
I mean, it essentially was, for the most part, a two-person scene. Like, it probably comprised, 20% of the episode, and it was really, like, there were 3 people there, but really, like, dialogue between 2 of them for a large part of it.
So the actress's name is Tig, so I was right. Tig Notaro or something like that. And I don't see what her character's name is, but yeah, they have some great interaction. Their chemistry seems to be on point. So if they stick both of those 2 in engineering, I'm going to watch all season. I mean, I am anyway, but
I was gonna say, you're not.
Yeah.
But I think they're both there for the long term, and I think they'll be kind of a main staple of engineering along with Tilly. I think Tilly, again, my guess is there's going to be some scary moments. There's going to be some twists and turns, but I would be surprised if we don't see Tilly back in engineering in at least 3 episodes.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, what do we have to look forward to for next week? The search for Spock, maybe actually producing Spock.
Yeah, I think that would be a big step there.
I mean, they can only dangle that carrot for so long.
I mean, I was a little miffed about tonight, but I'm sure next week when the next episode airs, we'll probably see him.
You will be disappointed again.
I'm also hoping that they continue the primary story arc of the Red Angel.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's going to be a big talking point between Michael and Spock when they return.
I mean, that did kind of take a backseat.
It did.
This episode.
It did.
And that's okay because you have some other things that had to happen. So other things we can look forward to maybe is learning more about Saru's change or his evolution.
Mm-hmm.
And then
number 1 from...
Right. Yeah.
I feel like, well, Captain Pike mentioned that she had a lot of resources, and she ends up having a lot of favors owed to her because of her abilities. So
yeah.
I'm sure we'll probably see a bigger part from her going forward.
And then finally, I think we're probably going to see some more on...
Spore Drive.
Yes, thank you. Again, I'll blame the Romulan Ale. And the fact that it's late. And it's a school night.
It's almost early.
And by school, I mean it's a work day tomorrow.
The one nice thing about recording from the TARDIS or some sort of machine that travels through time is that we can just go back a couple hours, sleep a little bit longer, and then go to work at some point in the indeterminate future.
Would you tell me how that works out for you, please?
Hold on, let me take another drink, maybe.
So, if you've made it this far, I am going to ask 2 things of you. Are you ready?
I'm ready now.
Ready. So, if you listen to our podcast, I don't care if you like it or you don't like it. I would love for you to go out and leave a review. Just review it. Whatever platform you use, whether that's Apple Podcasts, whether it's Google Play Music, whether it's Overcast, whatever you use, please go and leave us a review. We would love it. It's going to help us get more visibility and more exposure, and it's going to help us hopefully improve if there's like, you know what, they do this really well, but this sucks. We want to know that. Second thing, if you do like us, please consider going out to YouTube if you haven't, finding us, and subscribing to our channel. And then I'm actually going to ask 3 things.
That's fair.
Is that fair?
2 and a bonus.
Yeah. I would love for you, if you like what you listen to or you like what you watch, to share with your friends. Our eventual goal is obviously world domination. But to do that, we need to grow
organically.
Organically, right. We're not gonna throw money at Facebook or things like that to artificially inflate the people that follow us. So if you would like to help us rule the world, please do those 3 things.
I think you covered it.
Yeah, thanks. So, okay, it's late and we have Romulan Ale to finish, and then Brian has to take a shuttlecraft home. So, thank you for your attention. Thank you for continuing to download. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for doing whatever it is you're doing to listen or watch what we're doing here. We will keep doing this. We will keep improving. We would love to hear your feedback. And I'm out of things to say.
You guys are awesome.
Yes, that one.
This next drink is for you. Allons-y.